John Laurinaitis said this is probably going to be like a 6-month gig. 2 weeks under 10 years later, I was still hanging out. It was so nice to catch up, even for that short amount of time. They had me go into pre-tapes with Finlay and try an Irish accent. We walked out of pre-tapes that day. I said, how did you think it went? Fit goes, not very well. Well, I'm done here. I was never bullied, and I think it truly is because people were afraid of Fit. It was special to me because Ken got me my job. Ken trained me. Now we're going to be doing this enormous spot. All I wanted to do was be a professional wrestler. And my grandpa kept saying to my dad, Eric, he's going to do this. Just slapping the hell out of me. That just became a viral again, like in the last year or so. Bruce Pritchard walks up to me and goes, give me your phone. Okay, he's serious. I give him my phone. He goes, you're the son. I should have never made it in this business. And those are the times where I finally go, maybe I did do something pretty cool.
Rewind, recap, relive. Woo! That's what the world is watching.
My guest today has been synonymous with the world of wrestling for over 20 years now. Such iconic moments from an illegitimate son, an anonymous GM, former Cruiserweight champ, and so much more. Host of Going Postl. Please welcome Dylan Postl, a.k.a. Hornswoggle.
You got the last name right. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's Postl, Postl, Postl. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean, it's a great podcast name. I love it.
There was so many that we went back and forth on for Going Postl, and we decided on that, and Matt Cardona didn't like it. I've never listened to him, and I'm pretty sure when he said he didn't like it, it made me want to do it even more.
As it should. Yeah. No, yeah. I picked a great name. Very, very memorable. But
thanks, man.
Before we even jump into anything wrestling, I want to ask about a really both hilarious and sweet prank that I saw on your Instagram your son pulled on you while you were away this weekend. You got to describe that. Tell us, does he do that? Or
he's an asshole. My son's an asshole. I can say that because he's mine. Anyone else says it, I'm going to pay someone to destroy them. I will not do it myself. This all started with my buddies would collaborate with him to prank me and change photos in my house to them and all of that. And now I get home from a long weekend at WrestleCade. It was legitimately one of the greatest convention weekends I've ever had. Just fun, and got to meet so many awesome fans. If you were there, thank you very, very much for coming up to the table, for saying hi, everything, just for your support. It was so much fun. Had a extremely late flight on Sunday night, which we were delayed about 3 hours. My girlfriend came out to the convention. It was her first convention. People watching and just taking everything in. She knows so little about wrestling, and that's why I love her, is because Ric Flair walked through the bar, and I said, hey, you know who that is? She goes, the old guy? And I go, this is perfect. This is just perfect. But we got home. We literally landed at 1 a.m. Got to bed like 1:45, 2 a.m. It was just a late night. I drive home the next morning, 20 minutes home, and I am greeted in my garage, the entry to my house, by a photo of Hulk Hogan in the courtroom with the black bandana on, just looking like. And now I go, what is this? And now I walk in my house and I see another one, and I go, oh no. And now I proceed to ask and blame all of my friends that have done this to me in the past. Yeah. And they all go, we had nothing to do with this. And I go, very funny. And they go, no, so I go, I'm going to check the Ring doorbell. I proceed to tell my son, I'm going to check the Ring doorbell. He doesn't play it off anymore at that point. He just goes, oh no. He says, you need to take photos of all of these, because I got very creative with them. There was one under my overnight mouth guard. There was one on the back of a soda can in the fridge. He goes, there's a lot. So I can only imagine. I literally sat down on the toilet and looked above the door, and there's one just above the door looking at me. It's just, man, the fun we have. It's our relationship, though. I'm very, very grateful for the relationship I have with him. It's just fun. Like we do these things and just little pranks like that, and just we're laughing. It's just the laughs we have. I love it. I love the relationship we have.
That's so sweet. And I've heard you
Yeah.
say a bunch of interviews too. It's your relationship seems wonderful. Do you think there's any heads you still haven't found?
Oh, I know there are. I legitimately know there are because he's told me I will keep finding them. I'm finding faces from a student of mine that pranked me still. And this was 6 months ago. So
Yeah.
I can only imagine where these are and where that's going.
Amazing, incredible prank. If anyone didn't see, go on Dylan's Instagram because it's.
Oh, it's awful.
What another recent moment that you had really cool to see was that you reunited with the Undertaker. You were on six.
Yeah, man. It was really, really cool to sit down. I sat down on his podcast literally about 2 months ago, and I've been like waiting for it to come out, and I was like, I guess Donald Trump takes precedent in that. I'll allow it, you know. But yeah, it was. I talked about it on there. I haven't seen him for like since WrestleMania 30, and it was crazy to think about. Like, man, I mean, I saw him every day for years, and we haven't seen each other now for over 10 years. And so it was so nice to catch up, even for that short amount of time. It's literally like we work together still to this day, every day. It's awesome.
Was it weird kind of seeing him in such a laid back setting, having been there, and him being like that locker room leader presence while you were there?
Man, I'll tell you this, and we joked about it on the Patreon part of it. Like the Undertaker used to be the dead man. He used to be the guy from Death Valley making caskets, and now he's reading, pardon my French, dick pill ads. Like, and we were laughing about that, and it's just funny because but he's happy. He's very, very happy, and he's very like, I don't know, he's relaxed. And like at WrestleCade this last weekend, a lot of people were coming up and complimenting the interview and that. And I said, you know what, the one thing I wanted to do with that interview was something no one does with him. Everyone's very, very not reserved, but like intimidated. They're very intimidated by him. I still am to this day. But also, this is going to be my one time to sit down with him. I'm going to turn it around on him and actually ask him things. Something he never gets. He never, ever gets. And he actually brought up in the interview, like, no one ever asks me things. This is different. This is weird. And I wanted to make sure to do that because I have questions. I wanted to ask him even more than we even did. And it was like, I wanted to ask him about the casket matches. I wanted to ask him about Chuck Norris and about random things. I always think, like, he brought up the son of redacted, as we say these days, I guess. I can say it. Vince McMahon, the Vince McMahon storyline was the biggest thing to ever happen in my career. Legitimately the biggest thing ever. I still hold it very, very true to my heart and very close to my heart. It was the greatest thing that ever happened in my career at that time. But I always say, like, I wish I would have asked him things like, hey man, what really happened with Nails? Give me the scoop on that. Like, and what was going through your mind when you did the entrance at WrestleMania 12 before Shawn did? Like that, random things that no one ever has asked him. That's what I want to know. I don't want to know, hey, how was it beating WCW? I don't care. We've heard it in 90 interviews. Undertaker, we've heard about the streak 90 million times, and we've heard about the Hell in a Cell 1,000 times. I want to hear about, hey, how many masks did you go through? That's what I want to know.
That's like the wrestling fan, other than you being in the business for so long, that is for the business I feel that I love so much, those creative questions. Yeah.
It's the minute you take yourself away from this and realize before wrestling, I was Dylan from Oshkosh who worked at Target. When this is done, I always make a thing, like a self thing. I always want to mention Oshkosh, my home for my whole life. I always want to mention it in every interview, and I always get to. Here's that moment. I still now, after wrestling, will go back to being Dylan from Oshkosh. So now I can go back and go, What was Dylan from Oshkosh thinking? What would he ask the Undertaker? He wouldn't ask the Undertaker about the streak or about the Paul Bear relationship with Paul Bear. He would ask odd things like how many different versions of the Inferno match were there? Like that, like stuff like that no one else has ever thought of to think. I want to ask because that's what I think about.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. There's something unique actually that came out of that interview that circulated afterwards. I'm not sure whose account I saw it on, but a picture of you, Undertaker, Omos,
And an actor from Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
can you take us behind that picture?
Yeah. So it was like the three of us were doing Taker's podcast that day, and we're like, why don't we get a group shot? And I was like, sure, great. And then that posted again. That was like the next day they posted it. Like, wait till you see what we got coming. And I was like, oh, great. I'm going to be on in like 3 weeks. No, it was like a month and a half. But I'm so glad it came out. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It's really, really cool.
Reunite after all that time. So we've heard how you broke into wrestling.
Yeah.
You credit Ken Anderson with training you. Can you take us through what it was like the very first day you walked into WWE though? What was that like for you going in for that?
Before I got hired, I almost released. Before I got hired, I had a tryout with WWE to be a leprechaun for Finlay, and they had me go into pre-tapes with Finlay and try an Irish accent. And if you know me for any bit, you know that I cannot do accents. So as we walked out of pre-tapes that day, I said, well, how did you go? How did you think it went? Fit goes, not very well. And I go, well, I'm done here. This will be my last time ever being backstage again. And then they called me 2 weeks later. And then that day, it was like, I remember it was not like a new kid in school feeling at all. And I don't know why it wasn't. That feeling was almost like a couple weeks into the job. But the first day, it wasn't even nerves. It was like, man, this is the coolest. I'll never get this day back. Like, I'll have firsts. Everyone will have firsts of everything. And I remember to this day, I remember thinking like, this is the coolest day of my life.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine you being such a wrestling fan too, just like kind of going over that gap, I guess, in life, like going over the threshold.
Yeah. I remember seeing a SmackDown fist and going, this is the coolest. I now work here. This is awesome. The SmackDown fist is the coolest entrance in the world, in WWE history. You will not argue with me on that. No one will. It's followed very, very closely by the SmackDown ovals. Nothing will ever touch that either. SmackDown has always had the coolest intros.
Yeah. Do you think they'll ever bring the fist back?
I think it takes up too much room. I mean, that's kind of the crazy thing now. Look at pay-per-views. And even like big pay-per-views. They're running these stadiums and there's no staging. And everyone complains about it. I dislike it. I love the theme staging. I love pyro. When they got rid of pyro, I was so sad. And Tyson Kidd was like, you're yelling about pyro? I said, I hate that there's no pyro. He goes, yeah, because everyone watching at home goes, yeah, the Brock Lesnar is the coolest thing ever, but he doesn't have pyro anymore. I understand that. But I love pyro. I love staging. I love the presentation. But it's weird. But also think about it, how many more people you can fit in these places. You can't have these stagings and then have the same amount of people. And they're packing another 7,000 people in that area.
Right. I remember seeing some article like after last WrestleMania, Raw is going to stick to the reduced staging, whatever they call it. And that's cool. Like if it's for a great reason, that's awesome. Is there a favorite stage of a pay-per-view or show that you worked on? I guess pay-per-view, because you said SmackDown's your favorite type of.
The one that kind of like stands out to me the most is the night Jeff Hardy won the title, that big Armageddon set. I remember that one a lot. I think that was me and Khali. For some reason, that might have been the me and Khali year, or that was after. I don't remember. But I just remember that huge constructed set. That, and I also always loved the Night of Champions sets with the flags, with the big banners of the titles. Those were always neat too.
No, definitely Great shout. Well, so Finlay, you and Finlay, well
Yeah.
known if you guys became. It's awesome. I've heard you call him your road dad, which is
Yeah.
cool. Did you hit it off right away?
Instantly, legitimately instantly. And I'm so lucky and I'm so grateful that we did. It was an instant bond. And I don't know why. I truly don't. Pardon me. I don't know why we hit it off so quickly and so fast, but we did. And no one, I never, like, it was during the end, it was during the end of like that hazing movement in the locker rooms. I was there for the Miz bullying and the getting kicked out of the locker room. I was literally there when it happened. Um, but I never got it. I never was a part of the bullying. To me, I was the biggest bully in the locker room, if you ask 90% of the locker room. Uh, but I was never bullied, and I think it truly is because people were afraid of Fit. People didn't want to mess with his kid, and whether I was a kid off the screen or on the screen didn't matter.
And along with that toughness and that aura that Finlay had,
Yeah,
he's credited highly with the women's division kind of
there
evolving
wouldn't
today.
there.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be a women's division to this day. It would have still been bra and panties. Um, and then obviously with the change of times, that would have went out with the times, like it did. But then I don't think there would be the representation that women have today without Finley.
Did you witness any of it, like
All
firsthand?
of it. Yeah, constantly. Like all of those girls from the Diva Searchers and that Eve Torres, all of those, Layla, all of them, Fit literally trained. He literally they went to the developmental, sure, but they were pushed on the road so fast. He would go before house shows 2 or 3 hours before every house show, not just the first one of the loop. Every day, every weekend, Fit would be in there.
As far as I know, he doesn't outwardly take credit, does he? Is he?
He doesn't want credit. He literally doesn't want credit. He said it in like a couple interviews that he's done where he goes, "That's not me. That's them. That's their talent." Sure, but you have to have someone to mold them. Clay doesn't become a bowl without someone molding it.
So you debut coming out from under
Yeah,
the
man.
helping Finlay. Can you take us through hearing that your debut is going to be coming out from under the ring? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I talk about it in my book. Life is Short and So Am I, available on the website, dylanpostle.com. Um, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing. And then they said, you're going to be kind of living under the ring and essentially like a troll kind of character that doesn't talk, doesn't do any of this. I'm sure that me bombing my interview didn't have anything to do with me not being able to talk. But then we get to the rehearsal for it, and Vince McMahon says, "All right, you're going to be under there. There's going to be a green light that pops up. Finlay is going to open the apron, and you're going to come out." Great. All right, we're rehearsing. I see the apron go up. No light. I don't come out. All right, we stop it down. Vince, where are you? I said, there was no green light, sir. There was no light at all. Okay. Next time, green light. Fit isn't out there to open the apron yet. Where are you? I said, oh no, Fit didn't open the apron. Oh, you're right. I was like, oh my God, I'm bombing. This is going to be it. This is literally, I'm going to get fired before I even get on television. I'm going to get fired during rehearsal. It's going to be the first in history. Third time's a charm. Green light, pow. Finlay opens, pow. And I come out, and he was so happy with it. Finlay was happy. Vince was happy. It was great. It was literally, and then like, I remember that was one of the only times I heard a crowd reaction, and I felt it. I was like, man, this is the coolest moment ever. And as soon as they put me back under the ring, I got snuck back to the back. And I remember getting back to the back and then going like, okay, now we're off to the races. Now there's no turning back. They told me it was going to be, they said, John Laurinaitis said this is probably going to be like a 6-month gig. And 2 weeks under 10 years later, I was still hanging out. So it's pretty cool to think back on and think back on. I'm now at the point in my career I never watched my matches back. I've watched 6 of my matches in total. I now can look back and go, I can admit that moments and things I've done are pretty cool and pretty special. A, because a lot of people have told me they are, so I have to believe them. And B, because I'm an adult and I can actually come to terms with it. Like, all right, I did have an impact.
Definitely did. Those 6 matches, do you, not to put you on the spot, do you know what they are? Obviously, one is WLC.
WLC. Then the follow-up, the hair versus mask. Khali. Mini Battle Royal. The Boogeyman, Mini Boogeyman versus us tag match. And then, you know what? There's more. I think it's 8. And then, because the 3 Mania matches, the 3 main Mania matches, okay. 23, 24, 25.
You've got a great memory, by the way.
I don't. I literally had to think so hard on what they were. But that shows like what ones, those are the only ones I've watched. Ever. Those are the only ones. And that's the only reason I know which ones they were. I know the Khali one because Shaq. Mini Battle Royal, obviously. Little Boogeyman and Boogeyman one because it was my first wrestling match ever in WWE. The other ones were Mania. Yeah.
You got to watch Manias. Yeah. We've all heard that amazing story. You told it on Undertaker's podcast, but you told it before falling asleep under the ring during the spot you're supposed to do with Undertaker.
Yeah, man.
Were there any other stories that come to mind when you're under the ring that something happened, or maybe favorite matches you were underneath there for?
So it was pretty cool, man. Like, after a while on house shows, I could hear the match going on above me by the sound. I knew what was happening. Like, say it was Matt Hardy and MVP. Or the one I remember the most, people are going to groan, I'm sure. Chris Benoit and MVP. They wrestled so many times on tours and house show loops, I can still hear it in my head. I could hear the start with the chops. I could hear the cutoff. I could hear the heat. I could hear the double down. I literally could hear him doing his comeback into the Germans, going up for the headbutt. I can literally hear it in my head to this day. And it's crazy because I could hear it and then visualize it above me. And I knew by not only the sound of the bumps, but the crowd reaction. And it was nuts. That Matt Hardy, there was Matt Hardy and Kennedy, maybe that match. But a lot of them after a while, I just knew what was going on. All of Fit's matches. It took me because Fit would work guys. It seems like we worked Great Khali for 3 years. It was probably 6 months, but every weekend, every tour, Mark Henry too. Mark Henry worked for so long. But so I knew Boogeyman in the very beginning. We worked for so long where I can literally still picture his matches just by sound.
It's crazy. And that's so cool because that's literally an experience unique to you. Like, I don't think there's anyone else in any company that's experienced that as many.
No commentary, no nothing. Literally just crowd reaction.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you mentioned, so you've watched the Mania moments.
Yeah.
The big Mania moment is 23.
Yeah, man.
Nasty. What was that? Kenton bomb from
Green Lambeau Leap, Kenton bomb, whatever. Yeah, it's that Mania is still my favorite, man. I go between that and 24 all the time. And 23 was my first. Everyone remembers their first, unless you're me. But Mania, I do. But it's one of those things where it was special to me because Ken got me my job. Ken trained me. And now we're going to be doing this enormous spot. And it's just funny on the video of it. You could see him pick me up on his shoulders and me acting scared. And then I remember I knew he was going to go because he was going to squeeze my leg. And then you could literally see me just go, oh no, and hold on so tight and then land. And you can see me look at him on the mat. Thank God they cut away. I look at him and he goes, "You okay?" I go, "I'm okay." And I go, "Oh no, I have to be selling like I'm dead." "Oh, I'm dead." And it was it was just, but I was so in the moment of this is the coolest moment of my life. I'm on frickin' WrestleMania. This is incredible.
No, it was amazing. It was a crazy moment to watch. And I
Yeah.
actually just had Kennedy on a couple weeks ago. We talked about that moment, but we also talked about a lot of the training that he's doing now at his
Yeah.
academy. Stars has produced already. As someone yourself who was trained by him and getting into wrestling, what is he like to work under?
He, myself, and my business partner, my best friend in the world, Nick Colucci, he trained both of us, and he was such a bully to Colucci. He was such a bully to him, and it was like blatant. Not like he wasn't mean, but he just pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. And Ken goes like, he could, and Colucci could do everything, literally everything. He was just this kind of chubby kid at the time, but he could do everything. And I think it almost like put Ken in his place a little bit. Like he wasn't pushing him hard enough, so we had to push him extra hard, and he still did well. And but we think about him now. He just got, man. He was always targeted, and it was just fun, man. I never wanted to be trained as a midget wrestler. I wanted to be trained as a cruiserweight and a small cruiserweight. And that's what he did. He never trained me as the midget wrestler. He treated me the exact same as everyone else, which is awesome.
So cool that he was able to get your foot in the door, and then your first big WrestleMania moment is with him.
I'm so thankful. Like it couldn't have been more perfect.
What does it mean for you a little bit later into your career when you win the Cruiserweight Championship? You're not only living your dream and you're in the company, but they put that trust on you to give you this championship.
Nah, it's not trust at all. I didn't defend the damn thing. I talk about it all the time. I should have never made it in this business. I should have never made it. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be still working at Target right now. I'm not the body type that WWE hires. So to be able to get a job with WWE is incredible. To be able to be on my first WrestleMania is unreal. Then when they told me, I think it was like, yeah, it was that Friday. They told me, they said, "Hey, you're flying out tomorrow for Great American Bash." And I go, "Well, why?" And they go, "Well, you're going to win the Cruiserweight title." I go, "Excuse me?" And they go, "Yep, travel is coming right now."
Good evening.
Oh, God. Siri's listening to me.
Oh, I was like, who is that?
Shut up, Siri. Shut up. There we go. Happens all the time on the podcast. But it's one of those things where it was mind-blowing. I shouldn't have even made it to the company. And now I'm winning a title in this company. And it's just, I think about it all the time still to this day because I can reflect now. And it's just nuts to me. And I remember winning the title, and Colucci had his oldest son, and he was a baby. And I remember coming home with the title. First people I showed were my dad and my grandpa, and then I brought it over, and there's a photo of his now 17-year-old son, but as a baby with the title put on him. And I was like, my godson. And it's like, and well, it's something I'll hold dearly the rest of my life. And I just remember bringing it over to my grandpa's house, which is now this exact house that I live in, and like taking it out of my bag and showing him. And he just, this is pretty awesome. And my dad too, like, who would have thought? Who would have thought I would have a WWE title that I didn't buy off Shop Zone?
Exactly. No, but after hearing that, I didn't realize this was your grandpa's house now.
Yeah, man. He was my number one supporter. With my back surgeries and my physical being how I am, a midget. We can say that. I'll give you the card for tonight. I I should never have made it in wrestling, period. Not even just WWE, but independently all over. I had major back surgery when I was 4 that paralyzed me. The one thing they said was no trampolines and no contact sports. I did not listen, but all I wanted to do was be a professional wrestler. And my grandpa, literally, from that day, kept saying to my dad, Eric, he's going to do this. He's going to do this. That's all he wants to do. He's going to do this. My dad kept just shaking his head and going, I wish you'd focus on something else. Now, karma's coming to me because that's all my son cares about. It's all he cares about. And all he wants to do is be a professional wrestler. So that's karma coming back and biting me. But it's just one of those things, man, where he was the guy that supported me. And he was moving to an apartment because he was getting too old for the house and all that. He didn't need the big house. And I was like, I don't want anyone living in my grandpa's house. And I dragged my feet. And he finally goes, hey, if you don't buy it, I'm putting it on the market. And I go, nope, not happening. And I bought my grandpa's house. And for the past, I think we just said 10 years, it's been my house. And my son has grown up in his house. This office was my grandma. When my grandma was alive, we called it her cave. And a fan was nice enough. It's so cool, man. So cool. A fan made a sign that says Grandma's Cave, and it hangs above the door in my office. And I have so many memories in this house as a child. And now for my son to have memories his whole life is really, really cool for me.
Did you watch your first wrestling match, you think, in that house, or was it?
I know I did. I watched it in that living room where my son is watching wrestling. Holy shit. You just made me think of something. That's pretty cool, man. I've never thought of that. That's a really cool thing that I just self-revealed on this podcast. My son is watching wrestling as we speak in the same exact room where I watched wrestling for the very first time. WrestleMania 6.
Yeah, that's an amazing full circle.
WrestleMania 6, man. That's pretty awesome. That the thought of like Landon has watched WrestleMania 6 with me in the same room where I watched it for the very first time. Pretty awesome. Yeah, I like that thought. And then I would come in here and bug my grandma to make me lunch or supper because Grandpa didn't cook a lot. Grandpa made breakfast. Grandma always made lunch or supper. So I would come in here and she'd be knitting or crocheting, and I always bug her to make food. Yeah. Good memories. And then random story about Grandpa's house. We were planting peppers and in the kitchen, little pepper pots. And the one thing they said is, hey, don't touch your eyes because you've had pepper seeds on your hands. I used the bathroom. My eyes itched. I touched them. I just started screaming. They didn't know if I was peeing all over the floor or what was going on, but I couldn't see. I had to get rushed to the ER to get my eyes washed. I remember that. It's one of my stories that I still think about, like, to this day, of like, God, just an idiot kid at times.
But weren't we all, though? And look,
man, it's just so stupid, like such a dumb move that I'm sure a lot of kids make, but just, yeah.
Wow, so that's great. So that house has so many good memories.
It really, really does. Like this house, and I'm slow, like I'm changing it here and there, which hurts me, but I'm just updating it. I just redid the bathroom. The basement was never furnished. It was just open space, and I now made a bar and a movie room and Landon's playroom. I have a rec room down there. It's just little things I've done, but like there's also little things about the house that I'll never touch. Like the front door has always been the same red front door. I'll never change the color of the door. There's a sign out front that says Postl Cottage that my grandparents painted. It's this little metal sign that they painted, and I will never, ever change that. If that gets rusty, I'll never change that. The red mailbox, I'll never change. Like just something like that. Like I can't change that. I don't think I'll ever sell this house.
No.
I can be.
Why would you?
I will never sell this house. And what I fear is, like, I was telling my brothers the other day, when my parents want to move out of their house, I don't want anyone living there either. I don't want anyone living in my parents' house. That's where I grew up. I grew up in 2 houses, this house and that house. It's like, man, I'm just going to own 2 houses.
You're going to have a lot of property soon.
I'm literally going to own 2 houses in Oshkosh, and I'm only going to live in one. Like,
It's so funny. You built a bar downstairs. I don't know how many people are aware, if they watch your podcast there, but like, you're an insane collector of memorabilia, but also like unique memorabilia that's specific to you, which is so cool. What's your coolest piece of memorabilia, do you think?
So yeah, during that guest host era, man, I loved it for 2 reasons. One, every week they wrote something in for me and the guest hosts every week. And I was like, okay, they would announce them that the Monday before. And I was like, I need to get something memorabilia wise for that guest host to sign. So I have so much guest host signed memorabilia. Probably, like, looking back at it now, the Mike Tyson signed DX gloves are the coolest. That and the Shaquille O'Neal signed basketball are the coolest. From like that, like the signed era, I have 5 first pitch balls that I've thrown in my basement, which is really, really cool to think about. Like, to think about doing 1 first pitch is pretty crazy. I've done 5, and it's pretty awesome to think about. I've never hit the dirt. But it's a lot of that stuff is just, I put it behind my bar because this is my only me room. My office is my only me room. It's all I want. I can close this door. No one knows that this room would even exist. Literally, people wouldn't know what I do, essentially. Besides that, I have a couple random photos of me with the Muppets in my living room. But but then down there I just was like, man, I really want to display this stuff because I don't want it in storage. And I have so much signed memorabilia in storage still, like in my garage, just hanging out in totes. It's insane, but it's just, but going back on your question, the Mike Tyson gloves are a pretty cool piece, in the Shaq ball.
Cool.
I'm very, very, man, I'm fortunate. That I have signed guitars from Newfound Glory. A lot of cool items that I look back now and I go, those are the things I can look back and go, man, I'm pretty damn lucky. I had in my basement, in my movie room, I have posters signed by the Muppet performers as their characters in their character signatures, which, me being the fanatic I am, is mind blowing. I always say, like, there's 3 things. Like, if there was I would have a house fire. Landon at this age, at 14, is very faster than I am. He can fend for himself. Cruiserweight title is going. Muppet sign poster is going, and my Leprechaun Origins head is going.
The 3 solid items. Yeah.
I can get, like, I have 2 more Ivory figures in package. I think I have 1 more glow in the dark figure loose. Maybe not. But the figures also, that's tough because the head of one of the figures was never produced. So that's a 1-of-1 factory head that was never produced. That one would be tough to leave because there's a story with that is they showed Stephanie McMahon and she said the head looked too demonic. And it's kind of funny because then the releases after are so completely different in the Jax era. But it's, so it's a 1-of-1 head that it's never been produced.
That's insane. Well, So you mentioned the Ivory figure. I want to get into that now.
Yeah.
That is something that lives in my mind from when I was a kid, my friend and I collecting action figures, and the Hornswoggle figure, they were all coming out because they were rare, I feel, at least.
So I think you're thinking the gold one.
Maybe
because the Ivory, you're thinking the gold statue one on the second row. The Ivory was never in stores. The Ivory was 1-of-1. Well, Ivory was 1 of 500.
Oh, 1 of 500. Okay.
And the glow in the dark is 1 of 100. So the reason that these came to be, Jeremy Padower, literally Padower, I don't care. I don't speak for a living. I just run a podcast. He worked for Jax. He started the Classic Superstars line. He was the WWE guy. I'm pretty sure I bugged Jeremy so much and the other people at Jax to get figures of mine so much that I know for a fact the story I got with the glow in the dark figure is we're only making 100, so Dylan can never get one, and it'll bug him forever. I got one, Jeremy. I got one. It's in my case. I think I have 2. I think I have one loose, another one loose as well. Could be wrong. But that's the story on the glow in the dark. And then the Ivory was essentially the same thing. How it was 1 of 500 just for like employees. I always heard.
Okay. Why was it you that they picked?
Because I bugged the shit out of them. Literally, I bugged them. I bet I bugged them whenever I had a new figure. I was like, I need these, and I need a bunch of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story. I live in New York, and so that Toys R Us in Times Square,
The worst. I'm sorry. Hawkins, you could say it was the coolest thing. I probably went towards the end of its run. It was not good. Maybe in the beginning it was awesome. It sucked when I went.
It had its glory day, but I could tell you that, like, I don't know, maybe like 12-year-old me was like, okay, I'll get there when it's opening. There'll be a Hornswoggle figure there when it's opening or something. Like, nothing. Just
no.
That's
why they were really, man. I just signed the nostalgia deal with WWE, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be recognized with that deal. But I'm very, very grateful because they're producing figures of me again. And I don't have to pay insane prices for them on the secondary market now because the major podcast screwed the market and they're making figures cool again. And my figures are going for astronomical amounts. It's insane, the secondary market, what my figures go for. So I've had to rebuy a couple of them because I have a rule where I need 1 loose and 1 in package of every figure of mine. It's insane. And they're just in storage. But I need them for you know what the thing is, and I just kind of reflected when I was doing it. My son, when he gets to an adult life, if he has kids, he can go, hey, this is what your grandpa did. This is what he produced, kind of thing. And it's really, really cool for me. So it's a cool thing to have.
Absolutely. No, that is a word.
I literally live for him, which is something I've grown to enjoy and I've grown to accept. Is 90% of what I do for him. I literally brought Darby Allin stuff to WrestleCade to get signed for him.
I love it. As we've seen the frog splash, the bullfrog splash, the tadpole splash. Why is the tadpole splash the best one of the 3?
Because no one's expecting me to go off the top rope. I think that was it. And so it was never supposed to be it. I was supposed to do the night I won the Cruiserweight title, I was supposed to do a bulldog off the top. And then they realized, because I remember Dean Malenko was our agent, and I pitched doing a frog splash. He's like, well, Chavo does it. And I was like, crap. So we practiced a bulldog, and I was like, this sucks. And then, right before the match, I was on headset, and Dean goes, hey, can you do the splash? And I go, yes. He goes, okay, because Funaki or someone was doing a bulldog in the match. And I was like, we haven't practiced it. Oh, no. I knew I could do it. And it was off to the races. It was the best. It was the best.
So iconic. That tadpole splash. Every time you had its own unique look, everything about it was great.
Thank you.
one match that you said that you watch back of yours is the mini battle royal, and I feel
Yeah.
like every year I see that match pick up traction again, and in some way, shape, or form is on Instagram or something. Can you take us through how that match came about and why that happened?
That was one of the, I mean, during that Vince's Son era where, I mean, whole segments were centered around me. And it was that, I think it was like that moment where I was like, it finally hit me of, whoa, this is only about me. This is about no one else. This is about me. And I was like, this is the coolest. And they found all the other minis, and I remember it was like, I can gorilla press someone. I can throw a clothesline really hard. This is the coolest thing ever. I can do Finlay's finish. This is going to be the greatest night of my life. And it was so cool at that point because I didn't really wrestle a lot leading up to that. So being able to actually do some things was great.
Were you jealous that Mini Batista got to do the Batista entrance?
I was so freaking jealous. I was so freaking jealous. I was so mad. I was not mad after when he got kicked out for trying to take pictures with the divas.
Oh,
and he got booted out of the arena. I was not mad or jealous anymore.
Oh my God. On the topic of those viral moments,
Yeah.
the other one I see is Great Khali just
slapping the hell out of me. That just became a viral again, like in the last year or so. And I think that's Survivor Series that year, which means it's going to be coming up. I always forget if it's Armageddon or Survivor Series. I think it's Survivor Series because I think Armageddon is Fit and Khali.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. It's happened once in my life. But yeah, that was the night with Shaq. Shaq was at ringside. It was Survivor Series. Almost positive. But Shaq was at ringside and they started chanting for Shaq. And then Khali, like, they wanted Shaq to get in the ring for some reason for a face-off, whatever. And then I was like, I remember interacting, like in my head going, you need to play off this because they'll shoot you. They'll shoot you on camera playing off Shaq. And so I was like, yeah, Shaq, come in. And they shot the whole thing. I was like, yes, you're finally learning television, Dylan. Like you're understanding this. And man, Khali slapped the hell out of me. And he was at WrestleCade. And my girlfriend goes, his hands are the size of your whole head. Yes. Yeah.
Did you get a chance to say hello to him?
It was the best. I saw him in the hotel lobby, and I saw him before he saw me, and I saw him, and then we locked eyes from 20 yards, and he just had an ear-to-ear grin. I could feel myself ear-to-ear grinning. We had the biggest hug, and I was telling my dad about that today, actually. He goes, you ever think what the other people in the lobby must have thought? I go, not till now. But man, it was so good to see him, and I love that guy. Him and I have always had a very, very good relationship. We would walk into, because he was my first riding team. Me, him, Mark Henry, and Davari was my first car on the road. And I would walk into the bar, the sports bar, or the Denny's, and I would be holding his pinky, and he'd go, "This my son." I go, "This my dad. This my son." And he would lift me onto the bar stool. It's the best.
That is so cool. That riding team that I've heard you mention.
Misfits, man. It was just the Misfits.
Who initiated that? Like, how do you think?
So Howard Finkel always did the travel, and he knew I knew Davari from the Indies, and Davari was riding with Mark Henry and Khali. And so I just jumped in with them. Yeah.
Well, the big moments in your career just kept coming. I mentioned at the beginning that we talked about a little bit, the illegitimate son angle, which it's still massive. It's still talked about. And you said,
it's the greatest moment that ever happened in my life. It's what kicked.
Take us through the day that it happens, that you revealed.
Yeah. 3:30 in the afternoon. We're about to do rehearsal for the segment. And Bruce Pritchard walks up to me and goes, "Give me your phone." I go, "Excuse me, sir?" He goes, "Give me your phone." I go, "Okay, he's serious." I give him my phone. He goes, "You're the son." And I go, "Oh, okay. Oh, no. Okay." And man, I say it all the time, I did not know how big it was going to be. and it was enormous. It was the biggest thing that ever happened to me and ever could have happened to me. The 15th anniversary Raw, I think about that, and like there were 5 segments on that show with me involved. I started the show with the McMahon family photo. And then the closing shot of that Raw was me pouring beer on Vince while having 2 backstages and a match. It's crazy.
That is all over that show. Were you the original plan? Because I've heard many things.
Hell no. It was definitely Ken.
It was definitely
Ken can deny it. He's finally come around to accepting it. The truth and telling the truth, it was definitely going to be him.
Ironic that you two who came up together and everything, or you came up under him.
So many moments like that of like him and I always kind of being intertwined.
Yeah. It kind of happened again too that you were this happened, it seemed, in a short span. They decided it was you to be Son, but with the Raw GM, when you were revealed as Raw GM,
yeah,
that did not.
They called me on a Friday night. I said, "Hey, we have this idea. You're going to be the GM. We want you to have a New Jersey accent, kind of like the baby from Roger Rabbit. You have so start watching that and getting a Jersey accent." And immediately I go, "You guys know I can't do accents. You should know this by now. I can't do this." So it's a common story. I'm not going to tell the whole thing. You guys can check out my episode with Kofi Kingston on Going Postl. It's a small talk with Kofi. He tells the story about how me doing the New Jersey and started into Big Nick. I was going to be Big Nick from Jersey. And it never came to be because I could not pull off a Jersey accent. And then the reveal was what it was. And man, it sucked.
Still memorable though. You still managed to make it your own.
You know what? It got me on television.
Exactly.
That's all I care about. And I can sign WWE encyclopedias under Raw GM.
It's Raw GM. Yeah, that's true. For you, being able to go from what we saw mainly with Leprechaun, Hornswoggle, and everything to kind of create yourself into this new character with 3MB, can you talk about that creative process and how
there was none. Legitimately, there was none. Heath was over in Saudi, I believe.
Okay.
Or Dubai, I forget. He was overseas in the Middle East for a live event, and they booked a 6-man tag of Los Matadors and Torito against 3MB. And then they realized, oh no, Heath is gone. I was pitching forever to work with Torito. I had no 3MB gear. One of the seamstresses was working on Heath's pants, so they cut Heath's pants to fit me. He was so pissed because they were incredible pants, and they cut them to fit me. And it was literally like, here we go. So many things were last minute of, why not Hornswoggle? Like Raw GM, Vince's son, Cruiserweight champion, 3MB. Yeah, why not Hornswoggle? I'm fine with it. And it led to probably, it was my top 3 run. My top 3 things are the Vince's son, then DX, and then the WLC stuff with Torito and 3MB. So, again, right place. Exactly. It was right place, right time.
It's funny because I saw you 3 or 4 watching back the WLC match video, and you say still wearing Heath's pants, but now that clicks, those are actually Heath's pants.
Legit Heath's pants.
That's crazy. Well, before we start to wind it down, we've seen you return multiple times to WWE since, and I love seeing it, all these returns. How about that Women's Rumble return? It was such a huge pop when you came out from under the
Thank you. I talk about that stuff all the time, man. And again, I'm at the age. I'm old. I'm 38 and I feel like I'm 58. Also, for about the last 6 months, I thought I was 39. Legitimately, like Bert Kreischer just talked about, he thought he was like 2 years younger than he was, or older, whatever it was. I thought for the last 6 months, I was 39. Completely wrong. But I literally, at this point, I for people to react, it makes me feel so damn good. So good. Like just being remembered. I've been out of the company since 2016.
Mhm.
That's 8 years. 8 years. And for the last year and a half, I wasn't on television at all. That's 9 years I wasn't featured. It's crazy, man. It's crazy to think like, all right, you can bleep this. People still give a shit. Like that's it's mind-boggling, man. It really, really is, and it makes me feel so special, and so like. And then when I got offered the nostalgia deal, again, it's just being recognized for something I never believed in, myself, that I'm being recognized in these cool ways, and again, that people still care. It makes me really happy. And those are the times where I finally go, like I said in the beginning of the interview, like, maybe I did do something pretty cool. I know I did. Like, I know I did because there's moments, and there wouldn't be moments if I didn't. But I never believed in it. And now I'm finally starting to go, I must have did something pretty okay. Pretty decent. I use the term pretty decent quite a bit.
Pretty decent is a humble way to put it, because you definitely you inspired a lot of people. And
Thanks, man. Hell yeah.
Well, now you're paying it back. It's Friday is your anniversary show for
our huge show is this Friday. ACW Wisconsin, man, Colucci and I and our other partner Weimer, we started this whole thing 11 years ago this week, and it started as me being bored off the road from WWE because creative didn't have anything for me at that time, and going, guys, I want to run a show. And they go, nope. And I go, I want to run a show. And they go, nope. I go, I'm going to run a show. And they both go, God dang it. We have to do this with him. We have to support him. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. And now it's a thing. It's such a revolution that we've built. It's such like a fan base that's so cool that we've built. It's awesome. I love it. ACW shows are then we started our training school. I call it like, it's such work, but it's also my weird relax and my escape from my job, like my normal job of traveling and going on the road for other shows. I hold ACW at a top tier for me, man. I take so much pride in this company. It's awesome.
That's great. And by the time this comes out, this would have already happened, and hopefully a huge success. Everyone should check.
Yeah. Damn right. I hope it was. Otherwise, I'm not going to be as happy on Monday.
But I mean, Dylan, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Really.
I've slowed up on these. A, because I've said the same stories a million times. B, because I have a podcast of my own, and those take up a decent amount of my time. And C, because I just like relaxing. I just love relaxing and hanging out with my kid, playing Xbox. That's my relax. I love playing Xbox. I love it. It makes me happy. It makes me escape and I shut this door. I can't hear my kid, or he plays in here and I can't hear him out there. It's awesome. But then it's so I don't do a lot of these. So when I get one of these, and it's different questions, and it's just laid back and enjoyable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I thank you for making the exception. And also, I know you're a good guy because you said Xbox and not PlayStation. So
if anyone, guys, stop pretending PlayStation is better. You have one thing, and that's Spider-Man. You have one thing. The only thing, the minute Xbox were to ever get Spider-Man, you can take your PlayStation and literally use it as a table or a coaster, because it's going to be useless as a system if Xbox were to ever get Spider-Man.
Yes. I didn't think it could end any better, but it did. This is great.
Nintendo Switch. PlayStation couldn't tie Nintendo Switch's boots, which couldn't even shine Xbox's shoes. Absolutely. But Nintendo Switch is so much better than PlayStation. Landon has his best friend has a PlayStation. He's been a PlayStation kid his whole life. And I judge him for that whenever he comes over. I hate it. Yeah.
As you should. As you should. Thank you.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
Rewind, recap, relive. Woo! That's what the world is watching.